Many may view it as a dying art, but the slam dunk remains a wondrous spectacle on the basketball court. Viewers and critics fall in and out of love with the dunk over the decades. Some consider it a skill, some consider it a classless way to show up an opponent. There are, of course, the all-time greats in dunking, the guys who knew how to strike the right balance between showmanship and skill. It's hard to pare down the list, but in the end, a couple of legends burn just a little bit brighter. In this video, we'll show you the top 10 greatest dunkers in NBA history. We've saved the best for last. Watch till the end to find out who they are. But before we begin, kindly subscribe to our channel for more of our amazing and sporty content. Please give us a like, share the video, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for timely updates of our latest uploads. Let's get it on. Number 10. Clyde Drexler. It's a shame that Michael Jordan neutralized Clyde Drexler's career as a star with the shrug game. While he, of course, was not even close to Jordan on a talent basis, Drexler was nevertheless spectacular, especially in the air. He was given the nickname the Glide while at the University of Houston, and somehow it always seemed appropriate. While he was a blistering, furious scorer on terra firma, Drexler was always much more graceful when flying through space. It seemed like dunking was no big feat for him, even though it's probably one of the hardest athletic achievements. Unlike many players on this video or otherwise, the Glide remained both productive and limber until his retirement, winning that elusive title in 1994-95 with the Rockets. If we celebrate LeBron James and Russell Westbrook for continuing to remain super athletes as they age, we owe Drexler the same retroactive appreciation. Number 9. Shaquille O'Neal. In recent years, there's been a groundswell of support for the idea that Shaquille O'Neal is underrated. And yes, Shaq's stats support the fact that he's likely a top 10 or top 15 player in NBA history. But what made him so special was his unique physique. Critics of Shaq, both during his heyday and in hindsight, point to his lackadaisical attitude as a reason to downplay his achievements. However, while Shaq was childish at times, the main reason his behavior stood out was because of Kobe Bryant's ultra-serious approach to the game. Shaq locked in when necessary, and when he did, there was no tougher cover. There were players as big as Shaq, and there were players as quick as Shaq, but nobody was as big and as quick as Superman. Even today, there are very few players who can run a fast break from coast to coast on one possession and dunk opponents into the next century on the next one. And none of them, from LeBron James to Zion Williamson to Giannis Antetokounmpo, are as big as Shaq. Number 8. Shawn Kemp. Shawn Kemp has become a figure of ignominy in the eyes of many since he's retired. But say that in front of most Seattle Supersonics fans and you'll set you straight. At the team's peak, Kemp was arguably as important to its success as Gary Payton. The Rain Man was picked 17th overall in the 1989 draft, but not for any on-court reasons. His talent was obvious from day one, and it remains so in the NBA. Kemp was not only an extremely powerful dunker both in space and in traffic, but he boasted handles to match an era where that was highly unusual for big men. Whenever Kemp got a rebound and started leading the fast break, opponents knew they were likely in big trouble. He also heads the category of dunkers who ooze swagger. Number 7. Darryl Dawkins. Compared to some of the other illustrious names on this video, Darryl Dawkins' career averages 12 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 1.3 assists per game seem small, but it would be a dereliction of duty not to mention him. In the 1970s, the dunk held a strange place in competitive basketball. After Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's overwhelming dominance at UCLA, the NCAA banned dunks for 10 years. In addition, the dunk was called the stuff shot, was almost never performed for any sort of flash or ceremony. This all changed when Dawkins achieved prominence. He, along with David Thompson and Julius Erving, helped fans and other players realize that the dunk is one of the most exciting ways to score 2 points, though only Shaquille O'Neal would ever come close to breaking a backboard again. Number 6. Kobe Bryant. Much of the narrative surrounding Kobe Bryant's career has to do with esoterica, such as mid-range footwork and the geometry of certain spots on the court in relation to the basket. However, the well-earned celebration of Kobe's IQ and work ethic comes at the expense of remembering just how explosive a dunker he was in his prime. He'd lull opponents into a relatively calm state by staying in his comfortable, mid-range spots or slicing his way to the rim. Then, out of nowhere, he'd strike. Kobe pop and the vicious nature of his dunks often surprised teammates and opponents alike. Of course, Best in his rookie year was an unheralded dunker, but he won that prize before emerging as one of the dominants in the ensuing seasons. Number 5. Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins had an unfulfilled NBA career, never made the conference finals, and was eclipsed by the holy trinity of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. But there's no question, he was one of the best dunkers in history. Wilkins burst onto the dunking scene with a shocking win at the stacked 1985 Slam Dunk Contest, defeating Jordan, Julius Erving, Larry Nance, Clyde Drexler, and Darrell Griffith. If the Atlanta Hawks weren't very prominent in the 1980s, Wilkins' dunk contest victories solidified his status as one of the premier aerial athletes alive. He began approaching Holy Trinity's status as a must-see player when his team came to town. Of course, the dunks themselves were also spectacular too. Neek never cared who was in his way, just that if you stood between him and the basket, he'd be hurting in the morning, either physically or psychologically. Number 4. Julius Erving. If Darryl Dawkins made people fear the dunk, then Julius Erving made people gape at it. Erving was almost born to be the father of the dunk. He got his start in the fun-loving ABA, which showed basketball could be looser and more aesthetically interesting than the staid Knicks or Boston Celtics would have you think. Dr. J then brought those ideas to the NBA after the leagues merged in 1976, and the sport was never the same. Here was a guy who could make a complicated layup look as easy as breathing. Erving was one of the league's first above-the-rim stars, and he paved the way for Michael, Dominique, LeBron, and so many others to feel comfortable showcasing their hops in live action. He's not the best in-game dunker ever, but he's the most important one. Number 3. Michael Jordan. There's not much to say about Michael Jordan that hasn't already been said. The man was a master of nearly every facet of basketball, and that includes the dunk. More than any other player on this video, Jordan understood dunks as an act of malice. You could argue that given Jordan's competitiveness, his general approach to basketball was malicious. But it especially extends to his aerial activities. While his throwdowns weren't as vicious as Russell Westbrook's and he wasn't as jaw-droppingly athletic as Vince Carter, Jordan understood a dunk's psychological impact and made sure his slams delivered a message. Interestingly enough, there's not much footage of Jordan showboating after a dunk, something that would make sense given his uber sensitivity to even the smallest slights, but perhaps that was all part of his grander plan too. In those particular sequences, the trash talk was unnecessary. The dunks spoke for themselves, and the lack of response from the GOAT signaled that he was laser-focused on destruction. His opponents had lost before they even knew it. Number 2. LeBron James. As with nearly all LeBron James-related items, the most impressive part about his athleticism is his consistency. At age 36, he's nearly as bouncy as he was at 18. During his first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron was arguably the greatest athlete in NBA history. His head regularly went above the rim on dunks, and he threw down consistently violent slams both in space and in traffic. There's a reason why the Dallas Mavericks shut him down in the 2011 NBA Finals. They tried everything to prevent him from reaching the paint. In the ensuing near-decade, LeBron's dealt with minor injuries and major minutes, yet he remains one of the league's premier dunkers. In 2019, he threw down a Dunk of the Year candidate on Nemanja Bjelica, and he put home a similarly awe-inspiring finish on Jusuf Nurkic in 2018. It's now well known that LeBron spends over $1 million yearly on his body, but at a certain point, he's also a little lucky. King James' reign over the NBA will eventually end, but that doesn't appear imminent. Fans can hope he has a few more years of gravity defiance in him. Number 1. Vince Carter. As you can tell, a lot of big names were also incredible dunkers. But Vince Carter is the best in-game dunker ever. It's not close. In 2018, the NBA posted a YouTube video of Carter ranking his 10 best dunks, and it is a fascinating 5 minutes. He remembers each dunk and breaks down his thought process, revealing a player who's supremely confident in his game-breaking athleticism, almost to the point of fearing it. At one point, Carter says he didn't know where Jason Kidd would throw the ball on a particular play, but he'd figure it out mid-air. Several minutes later, he says he improvised a windmill slam on 7-footer Michael Aloa-Candy. Afterward, he shrugs and says, "Just all instinct that took over." It would be annoying if Carter bragged or was wide-eyed about his dunking prowess, though nobody would blame him. We're all in awe too. But the way he's so casual about these breathtaking feats of athleticism is chilling. Though he didn't say it outright, it seems he's still somewhat mystified by his gifts too. Did you enjoy our video? In your opinion, who among these legends was the best in the dunk game? Well, if you enjoyed our video, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more of our amazing content. Please give us a like, share the video, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for timely updates of our latest uploads. We value your feedback. Feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comment section below.